Quick test, yep. Hey, Python Summit again. Please raise your hand if you participated in my previous talks about data sets or about temporal. Nobody, okay. But we will have video so you can rewatch later. Today I want to talk about architecture as code. And I'm Ruslan Korniichuk because I'm Ukrainian software and artificial intelligence engineer. And I'm based in Poland, in Warsaw. So you can address your questions via our system in Polish, in English, in Ukrainian, absolutely no worries. Today I will try to find some time at the end for Q&A. However, remember you can just send your questions to me via our system, Python Summit online system. So today we will start with introduction to this topic, architecture as code. Next I will try to explain how I understand problem. Next I will propose solution for this problem. We will talk very deeply about diagrams Python library and how we can use this library to draw, create our architecture diagrams. Next few slides, for example, I will share my slides with you, so you don't need to take screenshots. Today, at the end of presentation, I will share my slides. And yes, of course, I will try Q&A today. So let's start from introduction. We all know about infrastructure as code, like Terraform. And yes, of course, we can expect infrastructure as code much more popular topic than architecture as code. However, in the middle, we also have diagrams as code. And to be honest, I don't understand this seasonality, but I remember when I was student, when we deliver code to university, we was responsible also for diagrams for this code. So maybe it's because students who need to not only write code for the university projects, but also deliver diagrams for this code. And why this topic? More than 2 years ago, in technology radar, I just noticed new trend. We have diagram as code. And how to understand this report, I can highly recommend this one. We just need to see this level and we need to see something like this. It means direction, like 9 moving here, 3 moving here, 1 moving here. And if we have something hold, like don't worry about this technology. If we have something to assess, we just need to assess and, for example, prepare talk for next Python Summit about this technology. Next, we have trial we really need to use in our company. And finally, adapt. It should be in our company because it's super hot, super sexy, and reliable technology. So I just found this in Technology Radar and prepared a demo in my previous company when I worked at Schneider Electric. Infrastructure as code, like Terraform, super clear for us, but also we have diagrams as code. And we're all familiar with diagrams like sequence diagram, system architecture, state diagram. We can use dedicated libraries like Elogram, Mermaid, or diagrams library for Python. Today I want to talk about architecture as code, and main idea we can prototype, we can visualize our architecture diagram, our system diagram with code, and in our case with Python and Python programming language. And I will show also this library today. A list of these libraries for diagrams is not extremely huge, but you can see interesting trend here. Majority of these libraries with domain-specific language. It can be look like YAML or like JSON, but it's not standard YAML and JSON. Majority of us familiar with Gravitz, yep, and in Gravitz we can store our files in dot extension, in dot language. In Elograph we can use YAML, and it's more readable than XML, for example, or JSON. However, on this list we cannot find something for Python, Golang, TypeScript, etc. Let's try to split all these libraries to some categories, and I can propose two. First one is static diagrams. It means we can draw our, for example, architecture diagram and save as PNG or SVG file, like as image. However, also we have option to create interactive diagrams. So in our browser, we can drag and drop, move to top, move to bottom, so it's interactive. And in this case, we can use CloudGram, Illograph, and Structurizer DSL. Let's just quickly check how look these projects and products. First one, plant.uml. And we need to use dedicated language named plan.uml, domain specific, to work with this library. For me, it's absolutely not looking promising, so we have something new to learn, new code, and also these diagrams looks horrible, yep, to be honest. Another one, web sequence diagram. Again, we can use some domain-specific language, and we can again draw these horrible diagrams. Let's continue to search. Mermaid. They declared it, they used language plus minus similar to Markdown, but in practice it's absolutely not true. Here we can see basic example, and we can see something like DSL. Here we can find more advanced example. This one with C4C methodology. If you like to use in your architecture C4C, maybe you will like Mermaid too. However, I'm looking for something better, like Python, but not something similar to Markdown. And in practice, it's absolutely not Markdown, and it's absolutely not Python, for example. So let's continue. What we have more? We have Structurizer DSL. And again, DSL means domain-specific language. And again, if you want to use C4C methodology, it's best library, because author of C4C methodology created this also library for diagrams. But user experience, developer experience looks bad for this type of solution. So let's move forward. And finally, we can sum something nice. Name of this one is CloudGram. One more time, we can use interactive. We can create interactive diagrams. So in practice, in browser, we can drag and drop and move all these blocks. And it looks nice for me, much better than we have previously this or this. This one looks nice. And next one also looks nice, Illograph, and we can use YAML language, domain-specific YAML here. However, maybe you can see it's around 2,000 lines of code to draw this diagram, because YAML is huge, YAML is long. But this diagram is absolutely interactive, and we can link together different diagrams just to present different angle of view for our engineers, our architects, to understand architecture of our products. So I can recommend Illograph too. This one, CloudGram, and Illograph. However, I noticed also trend in IT community moving from domain-specific languages to Python language. We all familiar with Terraform, and Terraform we use HCL language, HashiCorp configuration language, or we can use alternatively JSON. Next, maybe you're familiar with Temporal, for example. If not, I can recommend my talk about Temporal, workflow orchestration platform with Python SDK, so we can write our pipelines in Python. However, many years ago, we all worked with AaC, AskBan, Mistral, and we use XML for workflows, or we use YAML. But now we can use Python. And the same for CI/CD, machine learning, data pipelines like Airflow. We can use Python in Airflow. And I believe in architecture as code, finally we have the same idea. Raise your hand if you use Draw.io, please, or diagrams.net. Yep, exactly. But I believe you're just drawing. You're not coding in XML these diagrams. Raise your hand if you code these diagrams in Draw.io in XML. Nobody. Yeah, but underneath we have XML. But we can do the same with Python. Let's just wait a little bit. So let's talk about problem statement, because maybe there is no problem. Majority of you just raise the hand and you use Draw.io, and it's nice. So why we need to solve something. Raise your hand one more time if you use UML at your work. A lot. Still, a lot of people use UML, Microsoft Visio, not Visual Studio. One person, two persons. Draw.io I have already asked. And last one, whiteboard, it's mean normal physical whiteboard with marker to draw. Again, a lot of people using whiteboard. Can you repeat, please, kindly? Microsoft Paint. Yep. To be honest, I spent a lot of time to change images in Paint, and it was Paint 3D. However, recently Microsoft, for some reason, killed this project. So I'm looking for like new Paint. If you know better Paint than traditional, let me know. Just quickly change some images, like eraser or change size of the image. So my problem statement: UML, PowerPoint, Visio, and even Draw.io, it's not good enough for us as engineers to create system architecture in fun way. Maybe you agree, maybe not. From this point, I will go and try to solve this problem statement. And yes, of course, I also have solution for this problem statement. And of course, we are talking about architecture as code today. Solution is architecture as code. And we can create our diagrams in Python, for example. We can diff diagrams like we do with Git, just to compare what was recently changed in our diagram. Version control, we can put this Python code to our Git repository. We can collaborate because we have code and we can change. And we can even integrate in our CI/CD pipelines. So about some pros, benefits of architecture as code. We have already talked about version control. It can be cloud agnostic, so we can draw diagrams for AWS, GCP, no challenges. We can reuse the same source code. So if you want to match two types of diagrams, we can easily do it. It's better for tax deduction, like royalty in our companies. In Polish it's powiększone koszty autorskie, powiększone koszty uzyskania przychodu. So main idea, you need to be creative, and ideally you should write some source code, for example in Python, to be able to decrease your tax during calendar year. And if we can draw diagrams with Python, so we should be more creative. It depends on different tax office location. In my current work, I believe we can easily use Draw.io and name this piece of art as creative work. But in some companies, you cannot only draw diagrams. You need to really write some code. And finally, we can expect coding. Yep, so I hope you also like coding in Python. That's why it will be great to have architecture as code with Python. However, whiteboards, it's still better for prototyping. That's why a lot of people today raised a hand when I ask about whiteboards. I also like piece of paper or whiteboard for prototyping, and it's much better than architecture as code. It's only for engineers, so we cannot expect enterprise architects will use architecture as code. For them, we have solutions like Draw.io, diagrams, .NET. And it's much better for upfront design like prototyping rather than long-lived documentation. And now let's talk about diagrams Python library. In my slides, you will see a link to this library. It's around 40,000 stars on GitHub, so it's super popular. And quick check, please raise your hand if you're familiar with diagrams Python library or even use this library. One person, two people, three people, three people. Yep, so many thanks for your time in advance. For people who raise the hand, please share with me your feedback after the session and recommend what we can add to the speech deck about diagrams Python library. And let's start with some quick example. So we have like 7 different blocks here, and we have around 10 lines of Python code. So it's much shorter than XML, JSON, and even YAML. And for me personally, it looks nice and even easy to understand. We need to import our blocks, and next we need to draw our diagram, provide ID, like name, for example, example1, and I can see example1 here, like direction I want to draw from top to bottom, TB, and I have some components like EC2, RDS, I can see EC2, I can see RDS. So looks nice. Go deeper just to understand how everything works. And main piece of diagrams.net library, primary object, it's diagram class. So we need to import diagram, and we can use diagram with construction with. And let me just use highlighter here. Cool, it's visible for you. So again, we have our name, for example, example2. But if you want to provide concrete name of the file after the export, we can do it with file name, for example, example2. So it means name of file in export will be example2.png and example2. So it's Gravitz because diagrams based on Gravitz library, and with this code we will export both files together, PNG, image, and editable file. Direction, it can be top, bottom, left, right, right, left, bottom, top, whatever we want. Because it's based on graphics, we can add more different attributes to our diagram. It's absolutely optional, but I'm just add this block here just to explain how we can extend basic diagrams library. And we have some components. In this case, it's EC2 instance. Now let's talk about nodes, because this EC2 instance in diagram.net, we name it nodes. That's why we need to import, for example, diagrams.aws.compute import EC2, and we have provider. So AWS is our provider, compute it's our resource type, and finally name like EC2. Idea is the same, example3, file name after export will be example3.png. Additionally, we can export in dot. And show false, it's mean when we're coding locally, with show true, we can immediately see created diagrams in Ubuntu or in Windows, macOS. If you don't want this pop-ups with fresh diagram, we can just put in the code show files, and this code just keep a new diagram locally for us and rewrite the diagram. We need to remember about this rewrite function. Move forward, so we have diagram class, we have nodes, and yes, of course, we can create custom nodes. It means in this case, for example, Tableau logo. Because usually we don't use only basic components, we also have our famous logos and our famous technology or even internal products. And again, it's super easy to use. We just need to provide name. So here we can see Tableau, and here we can see Tableau 2, and just provide path to our logo file with logo or with some image. So super easy to use, and idea is the same. And we will talk about this one, like Tableau EC2, in a moment, about flow in diagrams library. And now exactly let's talk about data flow. So we have left shift, we have right shift, we have parentheses here, and we have like minus in this example. So we have elastic load balancer, EC2, RDS, S3, and the same we can see here. And this minus, it's mean just line, and this shift left or shift right, it's mean arrow to left or arrow to right. And of course, we all Python developers, we understand why we need this parenthesis, because priority of minus operation it's not the same with bit shift left, bit shift right operation. So when you can see something crazy on your diagram, remember about parentheses just to end and clarify for Python how it should be drawn from left to right, or from top to bottom, or from right to left. Also, we need to talk quickly about clusters. So idea, we want to highlight some area of diagram and just isolate in group. That's why we can import cluster and we can use cluster. So it's like diagram, but inside diagram we name it cluster. And I believe you can understand we also need nested cluster. So we have our main cluster is blue, and inside we have nested clusters. First one event workers and second one processing. Here we can find processing, and inside processing we have one lambda function and another lambda function, AWS lambda function. A few closing slides for today. I promised you slides at the start of my presentation. Now you can take a photo just to download. This pitch deck also I'm prepared for you short URL. Py architecture as code, capitalize Py AaC. Just 1 more minute for photo. Yep, and we can go forward. If you want to contact me after presentation, because just move back for a moment, who want to take photo again. If you want to contact me after conferences, you can easily do it with link in pitch deck. You can email me, you can find me on LinkedIn, you can find me on Facebook. Absolutely easy. You can talk to me about all my slides from this conference, like temporal and how we can find data sets for our Python project. Because I'm Ukrainian, please support Ukraine if you can. And if you're still looking for trusted fund, it can become back alive, extremely old and extremely trusted Ukrainian fund. And you can easily check, do you want to support Ukrainian army or if you want support to fund. And yes, of course, we all want to support the Ukrainian army, not to fund. Feedback also extremely important, but no worry, it's super easy. It's just 1 to 5 stars, and that's why again you need to use phones. So please just use your phones and navigate to feedback form. And yep, we can start QA session. I believe we have second microphone. Yep, so you can. No, we don't have. Only one. Okay, so I will talk to you directly. We have first one.
Thank you very much. I have one question. What's the main difference between architecture as a code and the diagram as a code?
Both terms exist. I prefer to talk about diagrams as concrete library to draw any type of diagrams. And usually we have domain-specific languages to draw. But architecture as code, it's only specific case inside diagrams as code to draw system architecture, software architecture, so related to architecture. And it's only for purpose for my presentation. In other domains, we can understand this term absolutely differently. So it's not like infrastructure as code, and we all understand the same, like Terraform, Pulumi, Cloud Development Kit. With architecture as code, it's in different domains, in different answers. And for me personally, just title for my presentation. And we have next one.
So I have a question. Is it possible to create some classical class diagrams with this library? So for example, like with the attributes of the classes, inheritance of the classes, methods, and so on.
my personal understanding, it's not the best library to use for this one. We need to use something outdated and domain specific. I prefer to use this library diagrams Python library for architecture, for example, for cloud architecture, because we have all these components from Azure, from AWS. You don't need to have all these logos locally. Yes, of course, we can use Draw.io. However, it's hard to maintain Draw.io XML code in Git. Yep, if you want to store your diagrams together with your code, personally, I can recommend to use diagrams because it's in Python and it can easily be diff, like compare old and new one. But for class diagrams, I believe it's not the best solution as of now. And I'm looking for next one.
So maybe follow up here with respect to generating diagrams from the code. So for example, we have class defined in the Python, and do you know about the tools which you can generate the diagram for this class as a simply diagram?
Personally, I don't know this type of solutions. I believe when I was a student, we just used Microsoft Visio, and at my work, I also have, for some reason, Microsoft Visio. I hope for this reason. And just quick check who use for this type of activity, like class diagram, Draw.io. Please raise your hand. Some people, yep, I use, so probably, yep, it can be just done in Draw.io. And still we have more time, just quick check. Yep.
So I have a question in general, because you showed that you created some infrastructure with those diagrams. And for example, when we are creating EC2 instance, for example, EC2 instance needs, for example, IAM role, etc. Are they created automatically, I suppose, right? Or do you have to specify them by yourselves additionally?
So we use this diagrams Python library only for visualization. So we cannot, with this library, translate this code to real infrastructure like we do with Terraform or Pulumi, for example. So diagrams.net, it's for visualization. We will have Python code. You can find libraries to do reference when you have deployed your infrastructure. You can use dedicated libraries based on diagrams.net and Gravitz to draw your infrastructure. Imagine you are new on the project and you just want to understand what's going on AWS, in Azure. So you can use different libraries just to draw visualization what we have in cloud, and just better understand if you don't like native AWS, GCP, Azure in interface. However, for reverse, just in this case, much better to use Cloud Development Kit, yep, for AWS, or to use Pulumi. And in Pulumi, we can use not only Python, but TypeScript, for example, too. And quick check of our timer. Still, we have time for another one question.
Thank you for the talk. Can you have like different points of view onto a single diagram? So you have, for example, a diagram encompassing your entire architecture, but you need to give an executive overview of, say, how many front-end and back-end services we have, but without any engineering details. Or for a DevOps engineer, you can you have another point of view that shows, for example, network connections in the same infrastructure, in the same source diagram?
Let me show one more time previous slide with ILO graph. Just one moment. Yep, this one. So for this case, ILO graph is ideal, and here you can see different diagrams, and good news, components on these diagrams linked together. So when you change something on diagram 1 and it's linked to diagram 4, you don't need to change in both. You just change in first, and you can see update in second one. And this one, it's interactive. So you can just navigate your mouse here, and you will see exact direction of your request, for example, for this image. So it's super interactive, and it's, I believe, ideally for this use case, but not diagrams.net.
Just to follow up. Is it interactive in the way that you could also move around the stuff in this diagram that later on will be reflected in the code at the left? That you could, just kind of shift it in the way that is, you see it better then.
Idea of illograph, we have this code here, it looks like YAML, it's YAML based, and to be able to change right side, unfortunately we need to change left side. So we don't have option like copy and paste and automatically see result from left side. However, last time when I tested this library, it's like 2 years ago, maybe we can expect some updates from illograph, or we can go to Git issues and just propose this idea. Can we add option to drag and drop right side just to update code like we do in Draw.io. In Draw.io we just draw our logo, and underneath we have XML file with all these updates. So I believe it should be super easy to do for community of illograph. Yep, and maybe one more last question. No, if not, remember about lunch. Yeah, that's why we can stop now. Many thanks for your time today. I hope I will see you again on next edition of Python Summit. Hope I will see you in Warsaw again. It's a good idea to have this type of conferences locally in Warsaw. You can send your questions via our system, or you can just contact me from my slides via email on Facebook, LinkedIn. Many thanks. See you.